We've been talking about a few different AWS resources as well as the AWS global infrastructure. You may be wondering, how do I actually interact with these services? And the answer is APIs. In AWS, everything is an API call. An API is an application programming interface. And what that means is there are predetermined ways for you to interact with AWS services. And you can invoke or call these APIs to provision, configure, and manage your AWS resources. For example, you can launch an EC2 instance, or you can create an AWS Lambda function. Each of those would be different requests and different API calls to AWS. You can use the AWS Management Console, the AWS Command Line Interface, the AWS Software Development Kits, or various other tools like AWS CloudFormation to create requests to send to AWS APIs to create and manage AWS resources. First, let's talk about the AWS Management Console. The AWS Management Console is browser-based. Through the console, you can manage your AWS resources visually and in a way that is easy to digest. This is great for getting started and building your knowledge of the services. It's also useful for building out test environments or viewing AWS bills, viewing monitoring, and working with other non-technical resources. The AWS Management Console is most likely the first place you will go when you are learning about AWS. However, once you are up and running in a production-type environment, you don't want to rely on the point-and-click style that the console gives you to create and manage your AWS resources. For example, in order to create an Amazon EC2 instance, you need to click through various screens, setting all the configurations you want, and then you launch your instance. If later you wanted to launch another EC2 instance, you would need to go back into the console and click through those screens again to get it up and running. By having humans do this sort of manual provisioning, you are opening yourself up to potential errors. It's pretty easy to forget to check a checkbox or misspell something when you are doing everything manually. The answer to this problem is to use tools that allow you to script or program the API calls. One tool you can use is the AWS Command Line Interface, or CLI. The CLI allows you to make API calls using the terminal on your machine. This is different than the visual navigation style of the Management Console. Writing commands using the CLI makes actions scriptable and repeatable. So you can write and run your commands to launch an EC2 instance, and if you want to launch another, you can just run the pre-written command again. This makes it less susceptible to human error, and you can have these scripts run automatically, like on a schedule or triggered by another process. Automation is very important to having a successful and predictable cloud deployment over time. Another way to interact with AWS is through the AWS Software Development Kits, or SDKs. The SDKs allow you to interact with AWS resources through various programming languages. This makes it easy for developers to create programs that use AWS without using the low-level APIs, as well as avoiding that manual resource creation that we just talked about. All right, let's continue to talk about how to interact with AWS. You have the AWS Management Console, the CLI, and the SDKs, which are all sort of do-it-yourself ways to provision and manage your AWS environment. If you want to provision a resource, you can log into the console and point and click. You can write some commands, or you can write some programs to do it. There are also other ways you can manage your AWS environment using managed tools like AWS Elastic Beanstalk and AWS CloudFormation. AWS Elastic Beanstalk is a service that helps you provision Amazon EC2-based environments instead of clicking around the console or writing multiple commands to build out your network, EC2 instances, scaling, and elastic load balancers. You can instead provide your application code and desired configurations to the AWS Elastic Beanstalk service, which then takes that information and builds out your environment for you. AWS Elastic Beanstalk also makes it easy to save environment configurations, so they can be deployed again easily. AWS Elastic Beanstalk gives you the convenience of not having to provision and manage all of these pieces separately, while still giving you the visibility and control of the underlying resources. You get to focus on your business application, not the infrastructure. Another service you can use to help create automated and repeatable deployments is AWS CloudFormation. AWS CloudFormation is an infrastructure as code tool that allows you to define a wide variety of AWS resources in a declarative way using JSON or YAML text-based documents called CloudFormation templates. A declarative format like this allows you to define what you want to build without specifying the details of exactly how to build it. CloudFormation lets you define what you want, and the CloudFormation engine will worry about the details on calling the APIs to get everything built out. It also isn't just limited to EC2-based solutions. CloudFormation supports many different AWS resources, from storage, databases, analytics, machine learning, and more. Once you define your resources in a CloudFormation template, CloudFormation will parse the template and begin provisioning all of the resources you defined in parallel. CloudFormation manages all the calls to the backend AWS APIs for you. You can run the same CloudFormation template in multiple accounts or multiple regions, and it will create identical environments across them. There is less room for human error, as it is a totally automated process. To recap, the AWS Management Console is great for learning and providing a visual for the user. The AWS Management Console is a manual tool, so right off the bat, it isn't a great option for automation. You can instead use the CLI to script your interactions with AWS using the terminal. You can use the SDKs to write programs to interact with AWS for you, or you can use managed tools like AWS Elastic Beanstalk or AWS CloudFormation.